Hi, Arlene. Hi, Val. Just getting you guys in here because you guys are my friends. I didn't let anybody else in yet. I'm going to
Oh,
let them all in just a minute.
can
I
I
just
ask you a
wanted,
quick question then? All right, go ahead.
you can, but
Talk
I
to
just
us.
wanted to tell you
Yeah.
guys, it's my turn. Life is happening to me and
Yeah.
it sucks. I now need to go buy new furniture.
I have a place for you. I have a place for you, Patty.
Oh, I love you. All right,
Hotel surplus. Hotel
I'm gonna
surplus.
let everybody else in. I just wanted to talk to my people first. Just wanted to let you know I'm ready to cry. You have no
Oh, we're
idea.
here for you. We're here for you.
I don't want to tell that to everybody else though.
Yeah.
So here we go. I'm going to let everybody in. Here we go.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday with Widget. It's a little interesting today. The conference room that I usually use to do these classes is being occupied at the moment. So I'm actually sitting in my office and we may get interrupted is all I'm trying to say. So bear with me as I try really hard to make sure that we don't get interrupted. Have lots of things that I want to talk to you guys about, mostly about the new laws that are impacting us, affecting us and so forth. So as I continue to let people in, does anybody have a question they need right off the bat? Otherwise, I really want to get into the new laws. And I'm still letting people in, so just bear with me. If somebody has something they want to ask, please unmute yourself and let's get your questions answered.
I have a
Before go ahead, who's talking? Just so I know who I'm talking to. Okay,
Arlene.
hi.
I have a tenant that has for the last several months had a live-in companion caregiver. And so I found a form through CAA to use so that they can't say residency or whatever. I'm not accepting any information, anything, any rent or anything from them. And I presented it to them last week, and I got a text message yesterday saying that they're only going to be here for maybe another 3 weeks, but they don't want to offend them. So I didn't want to respond to that till I spoke to you, but I wanted to say, this is a safety issue. My insurance company is requiring it, and if you don't fill it out, it's a breach of your lease.
Nope. Let me explain why. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The caregiver is an employee for your tenant. Agreed?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Does the paper boy have to sign paperwork?
But he's not living in the property.
Correct. But he is an employee of the tenant. So keep that in mind. All a caregiver is an employee for the tenant. Hang on really quick. One of my coworkers wants to ask me a question. And remember, I told you we'd get interrupted? It's fine. Go ahead. They can't see you. Yes, absolutely. She had a funny question that I can answer easily. Just wrote that I give you 5 on the change on the note side. Okay. Because I just try to document it. Thank you. See what I get? Paper boy is an employee for the tenant, right? Right. So what I'm trying to put in your head, you guys, and it's okay if the caregiver lives there. The biggest thing you want to do is don't communicate with them. They're not your tenant. Just like you wouldn't go talk to the paper boy and ask them where the tenant's rent is, you're not going to go talk to the caregiver and discuss the tenancy with them. It's none of their business. Okay. Using the paper boy as a reference so that you understand this is an employee of the tenant. That's it. The biggest thing you want to do is make sure you don't accept rent from them. Otherwise, they become your tenant. Right. So what I usually tell a caregiver is, I'm sorry, I can't discuss this with you, but you can have my client contact me directly. You need to treat them just like they're the paper boy. Okay. The only difference is a caregiver can live in the property with them and we can't do anything about it. But remember, if you don't take rent from them, they're not a tenant.
But for security purposes, shouldn't I have like a copy of their driver's license or have a name or a contact information or something, since they're living in the property?
But they're not living there. They're just employed there.
Okay.
I'm trying so hard to help you.
Yeah.
They're just employed there. Don't overthink this. That's how you get yourself in trouble.
So just ignore it and just let them stay there. Don't ask any questions.
They're as soon as they tell you that that's a caregiver, you need to treat it just like they're the paper boy. You're not going to take rent from them, and you're not going to discuss any personal private business, like where's your rent, right?
Yeah. Now that I knew,
So
I just didn't.
if you do it, and you could ask them to sign a caretaker agreement, because there is a caretaker agreement in AOA's forms, I believe.
CAA.
Okay, CAA has it. I think AOA has something also, because I help them, not AOA, I'm sorry, AGLA. AGLA has something in there for a living caregiver also, just so you know.
Okay.
But I wouldn't worry too much about it. Remember, they're not a tenant, so you're not going to discuss any personal business, and you're not going to take any rent from them. So, and if they're only going to be there another 3 weeks, I would, on the 4th week, take them a caretaker agreement.
Okay.
Because
Thank
you told me 3 weeks, it's been 4. I'm not trying to cause a problem. I just want to let you know I need this on file now.
Okay.
I waited 3 weeks. They're still here.
Okay.
Be bubbly about it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Anytime, baby.
Can I just say that the insurance company is requiring it?
The insurance company is requesting to know, see it in, they don't reside on the property. So why does the insurance company need it?
Okay. All right.
And I'm thinking out loud. I don't want you to tell a white lie and end up in a red one. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to think outside of the building.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Patty.
No problem. No problem.
Hey, Patty, I got a question for you.
Yes, and Val, a paper boy is an employee of your tenant. Just saying. Okay, go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, Patty. So this is Anthony. How you doing? And thank you again.
Thank
We
you.
have a sixplex up in Apple Valley, and we're taking over the garages. The vet, it's for the vets, like we always use. But we notice sometimes, and this is just for us to know, we notice sometimes people live the vets are a whole different breed, and sometimes they'll say, "Oh, go ahead and live in my garage." Now, when someone lives in a garage, is that another eviction, or that's a safety hazard?
Absolutely.
It would be an eviction. Okay.
Absolutely. Look at it this way, okay? It's not a habitable dwelling. It doesn't have a certificate of occupancy, so it's not a habitable dwelling. So anybody living in there could sue you for not providing them with a habitable dwelling.
So if they're like a squatter that just opened the garage and moves in, that you're saying that then that would have to be an eviction. Again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you could tell them either you get rid of the person that's in the garage, or I'm going to eliminate everybody.
Okay. All right.
You can't have someone living in the garage. It's a health and safety violation.
Right. Right.
I'm trying.
Okay. Okay.
I'm giving you the verbiage you need. I have one question for you. What street is the sixplex on?
On Rimrock Road.
We call that area.
Yeah, you know that area. That no one's living in them now, but we're actually taking the vets are saying we don't want the garages anymore. So we're going up Tuesday. No one's living in them now, but there was a lady storing her stuff in them, and she happened to spend the night that night, according to one of the tenants. And then she said, "Well, I was just staying here because my boyfriend's coming to pick me up," which she left gracefully. But this is just for food for thought down the line, because we're noticing a lot of bye-bye babies and different places, commercial places, anywhere there's some type of roll-up door, we're noticing they're moving in.
Okay, and let me say this to you out loud, and don't shoot the messenger, okay? I actually happen to live in that area, and the area you're describing is known to the locals as Misdemeanor Mile.
What?
Okay. At least a little further north, you're in Felony Flats, just so you know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But the area you're speaking about is known to the locals as Misdemeanor Mile. So you should be very concerned about squatters living in the garage. You have every right to be.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna be boarding them up. We're gonna be locking them and drilling them down. And the vets just said, hey, we're just gonna give them to you guys. So no one's living in them now. We're going up Tuesday with the vets and the organization. So, the cops know that place is on, we told the cops what's going on there. So.
Well,
All right.
I was gonna suggest that you stop by Apple Valley PD and put a 602 letter on file.
Oh, 602. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that
Put a
next Tuesday. when we're in.
602 letter on file. That'll help them make arrests for trespassing on the premises.
Okay, I believe we have one on file already. I think you told us about this already, and I think
They
we do.
expire annually. I'm just
Okay.
talking out loud.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
everybody
No,
else is
you're right.
listening.
We haven't done it this year. We haven't done it this year, so we have to do it this
Everybody
year.
else is listening to us, so I'm trying to make sure, even you may know, but I'm trying to educate somebody listening that may not know. That's all.
Yeah. No,
I know
no.
you know what you're doing.
No. But I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know they expired every year, so that's a good thing. You know what I mean?
You
So,
definitely want to keep a new one every year because you don't want them to question it or politics to kick in and them say you didn't have a new one on file, so we can arrest. Just go there and do it. Be done.
Yeah. Thank you again. Yeah, for everything you do for us. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. I'm glad I can help. All right.
All right.
Anybody else? Because if nobody has anything, I'm going to get into the new laws and the laws that govern us. And just so you guys know where I'm getting this information, you can go on Widget's Way and click on the blog and look up legislation. And it says new California rental legislation for 2024 you should know about. Just so you guys know, that's all the new laws that govern us. But Patty's not an attorney, so we don't call them new laws, okay? We call it legislation. All right. So we're going to start right out of the gate. Sorry, our managing attorney just sent me a text message and it made me laugh. I will share it with all of you. And I don't know if I should say this out loud. He's in court right now and he's in a trial litigating a very heavily litigated case. Okay. And I can't go into details because this client isn't a Widget's Way member, which is fine. Okay, they don't need to be. Does that make sense? But this particular owner has just been raked over the coals by this particular tenant who actually purchased her own home and it closed escrow 60 days ago. And she's moved into it. We have evidence. And she's still trying to get the landlord to pay her $50,000 so she'll move out of the other place. What she doesn't realize is we already know she's gone. So the attorney just sent me a text message and it says, some of these tenants just really need to have their butts kicked. They're out of line. That's what the text message said. That's why I'm laughing. Okay, you guys, because I agree with them. Some of these tenants just need to have their butts kicked. All right, sorry, squirrel. Let's get on to the new laws because I know we all need to talk about them. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new laws that affect us directly. They are listed there under the table of contents by the Assembly bills or Senate bills that changed them. And this is what we need to know, you guys, effective as of January 1st. Jurisdictions with local rent control to mandate property owners to facilitate the relocation of tenants with permanent or physical disabilities to available or comparable units. You guys, in property management, we've already been doing this for decades. What it is a request for reasonable accommodations. Patty, what are you talking about? Let's say you have a 3-story building and no elevator, okay? And you have somebody that has a wheelchair. I've seen this happen. And they live on the 3rd floor and the husband picks up the wife, carries her up 3 flights of stairs, puts her in her wheelchair and lets her wheel around wherever. And when they need to leave, he picks her up, carries her down 3 flights of stairs. What they're saying is it's a request for reasonable accommodations to be relocated to a level that doesn't have stairs. In other words, they are asking for a request for a reasonable accommodation based on a disability to move to a different unit because they can't climb up and down those stairs. Okay, with that being said, in property management, we've been doing this for decades. It's a request for reasonable accommodations. But what they're saying now is it's the law in a rent controlled unit that you have to move them from one unit to another unit that's more convenient for their disability. That's always been the case, you guys. We've always done it. It's good ethics, it's good business practice, but now they made it a law. You have to, okay? So you don't have to kick tenants out of a downstairs unit and make them move upstairs. You have to wait until something becomes vacant and then give it to that tenant, okay? But just so you know, we are now, if they have a disability and they need a reasonable accommodation, they have now made it the law that you have to try to help accommodate them to the best of your ability. That is Assembly Bill 1620. Now I'm on to Assembly Bill 1764. This is, it allows landlords to give electronic receipts for screening fees. We've never been able to do that before. We've always had to handwrite them or give them something along those lines. We can now give them electronic receipts for their screening fees, okay? So know that that's something that we can do now. We weren't able to do it in the past. We had to handwrite them a receipt. It was a pain in the rear end. But now we can give them an electronic receipt for credit screening purposes, okay?
But are we allowed to do the credit screen? But what if you, so if somebody provides you with their credit report, you're just going to say thank you. You're not going to, and you'll run it on your own, so you don't need to send them any receipt, right?
Bingo. Okay, you're only sending them a receipt if you're taking money. If they're paying you a fee, you got to give them a receipt.
Okay.
Okay, I hope that clicked. Okay. Senate Bill 267. This gets real scary real quick, okay? This is in regards to people on Section 8 rent subsidies and the VASH program, anything federally funded, okay? You guys ready for this? Because you ain't gonna like it. You can no longer use a FICO score to determine credit worthiness on a Section 8 tenant. Patty, what are you saying? Do you mean, Patty, that I can't put that they have to have a minimum FICO score of 650 in order to qualify? That's correct. We've been using that as a loophole for decades. Guess who got smart and caught on to it? We can't use a FICO score minimum as a requirement anymore. That started January 1st. Give me 2 seconds, okay? Because you heard that go ding dong, and I told you we were going to get interrupted today. So give me just 1 second, okay? I apologize, you guys, I'm back, okay? I'm back. And it's gonna ding again and we're gonna hear a bunch of noise and I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, 267 on Section 8 vouchers. We can't have a minimum FICO score for them. So no FICO score minimum requirement for Section 8 tenants. We have to use the credit report to determine their credit worthiness. Give me 1 second. There we go. So we need to determine their credit worthiness without using a FICO score. So that's what this law does, is it references their ability to pay rather than their credit worthiness, okay? And I know for a fact I'm gonna get asked a really good question on this one. I'm gonna be asked specifically, then how do I deny Section 8 housing going forward? And I'll tell you, it would be relatively easy to deny them going forward if you only provided a month-to-month contract rather than a 1 year. So some municipalities will allow you, to do month-to-month tenancies at hello. Section 8 requires 1 year to start.
That's what it says. This is what it says. No, here.
Message. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's keep going to Senate Bill 712. This is a tricky one because it says that we now have to allow the storage and charging of electronic mobility devices. Wait, Patty, what are you talking about? Means that we now have to allow them for e-bikes or hoverboards, or there's something else, e-bikes, hoverboards, electric vehicles, it's personal mobility devices and not disability devices. It's like electric bikes, electric scooters, electric hoverboards. We have to allow them to charge them, to own and store them in our property. So it becomes a little bit tricky there, because we used to have a problem with hoverboards catching fire while they were charging. So now we have to allow that in our properties under Senate Bill 712. But it does have a caveat in there. Let me find it. It says 1 tenant. So let me see where that is. Hang on. Ah, there it is. Additionally, landlords cannot disallow the storage and recharging of up to 1 personal micro mobility device per person occupying the unit with certain conditions and exceptions. So we have to allow the personal micro mobility devices, and they're subject to the following conditions. They're not powered by an electric motor. They comply with safety standards for e-bikes and scooters and things like that. And in the absence of safety standards compliance, the tenant has insurance covering the storage of that device within the unit. So although now we have to allow them to have them, store them, and charge them on our property, we can require that they have insurance that protects us in the event they catch on fire. Okay?
Is that just renter's insurance?
Correct. Thank you, Arlene. I got the question right away. And see how she did that? She unmuted herself just to ask a quick question in that pause, and it's perfect timing. So good job. Assembly Bill 1418. We're not allowed to run criminal background checks anymore. Everybody got that? As of January 1st, as of 17 days ago, we can't run criminal background checks on tenants anymore. Look at it this way. They did their crime, they did their time, and they're no longer a debt to society. Okay? You have to break off from that. And I know this is going to cause quite a bit of garbage coming up, but let me explain to you what Assembly Bill 1418 does. Okay?
Patty, real quick before you start, I got cut off. I had to log on again. You know that that electrical mobility. So let's just say hypothetically I rent to John Doe. Then all of a sudden he buys 2 Teslas. Now, and my house is a 1960 or 50 or whatever. There's no way my house is going to take that. Now they're going to come back to me. They're going to come back to me and say, hey, you know, we can't charge our cars now, right? Now you're telling me, you're saying, well, you have to let it at least do 1 per person. There's no way now. Now I'm going to have to come in and do upgrading on my electrical.
No, that would be at their expense.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure, because I know,
You have to allow it, but if you have to upgrade the electrical panel, that would be at their expense, not at yours.
Okay.
You just have to allow it. Okay?
And I'm in agreement with your lawyer. Tenants suck. Bye.
But Patty,
All
that's
right,
not
and
for
then-
car charging, that's for the micro thing. That's not for cars.
Yeah, it's not for cars. This is for personal micro
Oh.
mobility devices. So this
Right.
is for electric e-bikes, scooters, things like that. Not
Well, I
Tesla.
know, but there are some e-bikes that take some really good charging. You know what I mean?
I
So,
completely and totally understand,
'cause
but
I
if you
have
need
it,
to
I have like, yeah.
if you need to upgrade the electrical panel to support the charging of that device, that would be a tenant's expense, not the landlord.
Yeah,
That would
because
be
these
a-
e-bikes
I
are like
know.
motorcycles nowadays.
I know.
I
rode
know,
one.
trust me. Okay.
All right, so now I'm gonna get to the one which is Assembly Bill 1418, where you guys are not gonna like what I'm about to tell you at all. You're gonna be pissed, okay? This has to do with crime-free housing programs across the state have been canceled. What? Because that's where I met Meridian Properties, who you guys hear talking. They've been canceled across the state. Let me read this. Effective January 1st, 2024, a significant legislative measure aimed at curbing the implementation of certain local government practices related to criminal background checks within the realm of housing. This law takes a stance against what were commonly known as crime-free housing programs and ordinances at the local level. The law restricts cities and counties from enforcing policies that compel landlords to conduct criminal background checks on tenants. It specifically prohibits the use of alleged criminal behavior without a felony conviction as a basis for evicting a tenant. Patty, what did you just say in simple English? What I told you is, if there's 5 people that live in your property and 2 of them get in a fight and beat the crap out of each other, okay? And they both go to jail for assault, okay? And they come back out and they're there, okay? And they got in a fight with each other, but they beat the crap out of each other. You cannot evict the whole household, only the people that committed the crime. But you can't evict the people that committed the crime until you have a conviction. Local ordinances are prohibited from mandating landlords to evicting an entire household solely because one member of the household has been convicted of a felony. You can only evict that person. The law redefines the definition of a nuisance behavior to align with the existing state definition. This prevents the inclusion of police contracts, service calls, or other incidences beyond the scope of the state definition as grounds for eviction. So what is Patty saying? Patty's saying, you know how we'd have to have a police report in order to prove that they're a nuisance? Now we have to have a conviction to prove that they're a nuisance.
Yeah, no, but I thought. Because I already can't, you want that to come.
Also, you know how we have a crime-free ledger in some of our contracts? We can't use those anymore. We cannot. Local governments are forbidden from compelling landlords to include lease provisions that go beyond the grounds for eviction outlined in the state law. This provision ensures that local regulations do not conflict or exceed the legal eviction grounds at the state or federal level.
Okay, so.
The law explicitly prohibits local governments from imposing penalties solely based on an individual's contact with law enforcement agencies. This includes penalties against residents, owners, tenants, and landlords by any other person. So basically, you can't get evicted if you call the cops all the time. Local ordinances are barred from requiring landlords to include lease provisions that conflict with state or federal law, criminal background checks on tenants. Somebody just gave me a love note. Let me look at it. Okay, it's about a case. Tenants are also protected from eviction based on unlawful conduct or on arrest. So if they're convicted, we can evict. If they're not convicted, They're protected. I hear Val right now. And Val is saying in my ear, because I can hear her, she's not really. She's saying, do you mean if I have a 10-unit apartment community and one crazy tenant gets pissed off and shoots 5 residences and kills them, he gets to stay there until he's convicted? Sorry, I know the garbage is gonna come. It's gonna come. And then tenant registry restrictions. Local governments are forbidden from establishing, maintaining, or promoting registries of tenants with the intent of discouraging landlords from renting to individuals on the registry or excluding them from rental housing within the local jurisdiction. So you can't have a list of people anymore that says, nobody wants to rent to these people, don't rent to them. They're high maintenance, they're heavily litigated, whatever. We can't have lists. We can't share lists with each other. There can be no list.
Okay, let me talk with the person.
Youch.
I will look for an alternative.
Assembly Bill 12 on a legislative measure aimed at regulating or limiting the amount of security deposits the landlord can demand from tenants in rental agreements are as follows. So we now have a limit on security deposits. It's pretty much if the landlord owns more than 4 residential doors, including the house they live in, then they can only get 1 month's rent as a maximum as a security deposit.
If they have.
If they own less than 4 doors, then they can ask for up to 2 times the rent on a security deposit. The exceptions for small landlords extends to family trusts. So if you hold title as a family trust, you can also
No, I was going to.
have the higher security deposit. Who cannot have the higher security deposit? Well, who can? The criteria for small landlords is the total number of dwelling units across all owned properties should not exceed 4. Ownership is limited to no more than 2 residential properties, but it's got to be less than 4 doors or less. And then the landlord must be a natural person or an LLC where all members are natural people. It also applies if they're in a family trust or a living trust, okay? And there is still an exception for active duty service members. That always has been 1 month's rent. And as far as the grandfather clause on existing security deposits, any deposit you collect that's more than 1 month's rent prior to July of 2024, you can keep. Let me rephrase that. You don't get to keep it, but you don't have to refund on July 1st when the law changes. If you took 2 months rent a year ago, then you get to keep that 2 months rent until they vacate. You don't have to give them 1 month back. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So if you've collected it prior to July 1st of 2024, you get to hold on to that. You don't have to refund any overages is what I'm trying to say. Okay? Senate Bill 567 closes a lot of loopholes and expands a lot of tenant protections. And the reason that they're doing that, in all fairness, you guys, is they're trying to limit the playing field. They're trying to level the playing field. They're basically trying to make it so that we take all applicants, we put their name on a piece of paper and we put them in a hat. Everybody that applies to rent our house, we close our eyes, we reach in the hat, we pull one out, and that's our new tenant. That's how they want us to pick them going forward, in my opinion. I know that's not the case. I'm just angry about the new law, and I will find a way to think outside of the building after I dig into it a little bit more. But they are trying to close more loopholes for no cause evictions. They're making it more difficult, and they're actually adding in some protections for tenants that safeguards them from the major renovations or a family member moving in or something along those lines, as far as implementing penalties against a landlord that lies saying that they want to move back in or have a family member move back in, or they're doing major renovations, and that's not the case. So what they're going to do is they're going to let you do those renovations, and then they're going to tell you you have to re-rent to the old tenant at the old rent amounts. Be very careful when terminating tenancy going forward. Make sure that you talk to your legal counsel first. Make sure you have a solid plan of action so that you're not going to be affected by these new bills, okay? This is where it gets a little crazy. Let's talk about Assembly Bill 1317. And we just talked about separating parking a few minutes ago. What this bill does is it says, and it's focusing on parking spaces within 16-unit apartments and in designated counties. The legislation effective for properties with a certificate of occupancy issued on or after January 1st, 2025 mandates the unbundling of parking from the overall rent cost for the property's lifetime. What is Patty talking about? You know how we're separating garages and houses and charging a separate rent for a garage on maybe on a commercial contract that isn't subject to rent control rules and laws? That's what they're talking about. They're saying that starting January 1st, 2025, we can't do that anymore. We can't unbundle the garage from the house, the garage from the apartment. We can't do it. Starting 2025, any certificate of occupancy issued on new has that right in the certificate of occupancy. So starting January 1st, 2025, for all new construction, parking will be bundled in. You cannot separate it. I'm not saying that the rule changes on January 1st, 2025. I'm saying that any building built after January 1st, 2025 will have the parking encumbrance, if you will. I'm using a real estate term where you cannot unbundle it and rent your parking separately.
Patty?
Yes.
LA City single family residence, will you be able to rent the house, but say that the garage is not part of the rental?
Was it built before January 1st of 2025?
Yes.
Then you
Okay.
can. It's for
Okay.
new construction. But
Okay.
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to point out to you guys, see, they're limiting us on new construction going forward, so we can't do this anymore. Once this passes, you watch where they're going to try to make us unbundle going forward. They don't like the fact that we're charging additional monies for parking that isn't subject to rent control. They don't like it. So remember this, for every action, there's a reaction. Oh, you're telling us that, okay, watch this. I'm going to rent my garage separate. It's not going to be subject to your rent control because I'm going to put them on a commercial contract, and that's how I'm going to make some money. Hey, guess what? Assembly Bill 1317 says, I see you landlords. I know what you're doing, and I'm going to put a stop to it. So new construction is where that stops. It's tenant rights to parking, flexible parking leasing. So you're still going to be able to lease those spaces, but you're going to have to provide, you're going to be able to lease out additional spaces. You're going to have to provide for your 16 units. And this is the big one. Tenant's failure to pay parking fee as outlined in a separately leased parking agreement is not considered grounds for an unlawful detainer. What? Got it? The owners have the right and the authority to revoke a tenant's right to lease parking spot if the payment is not received by the 45th day following the due date, but you can't evict. Some people say, oh, my tenant didn't pay the parking, so I'm going to evict them out of their apartment. Can't evict on parking rent. Okay. And then Arlene, to go into more specific, the law applies to properties meeting specific criteria, meaning a certificate of occupancy was issued on or after January 1st, 2025. The property must have a minimum of 16 residential units, and the property is located in designated counties, including but not limited to Alameda, LA, Riverside, Sacramento, Santa Clara, and Ventura. Alameda, Los Angeles, Riverside, that was a shocker for me, Santa Clara, and Ventura. Okay. And then there's certain exemptions for residential properties where individual garages are deemed functionally as part of the property. Yeah, if you guys want to know more about the new parking laws, go look on the website. Like I said, it's on my blog. I have the actual Senate bills and Assembly bills there, so you can click on them and read them. Senate Bill 71 marks a significant reform in the jurisdictional limits of small claims court. What, Patty? There's an increase in small claims court. So small claims used to be limited to a natural person at $10,000. That has now gone up to $12,500. Okay, got it. So small claims is now at $12,500, and for non-natural person, it used to be $5,000. Now it's $6,250. Okay. There's a threshold limit across different categories are raised for reflecting. Oh, I don't need to tell you guys that. Limits for multiple claims in a calendar year. If an individual, whether a natural person or an entity, brings more than 2 small claims cases in 1 calendar year, the threshold limit remains consistent at $2,500. Did you hear that? Does that make sense to you? So if you own an apartment community, the chances of you doing more than 2 small claims annually is high. If you do that, you're limited at $2,500 per case for small claims. You know what that's going to force us as landlords to do? It's going to force us as landlords to file a general civil lawsuit instead of small claims. It's going to be more expensive and it's going to take more time, but we may get all of our money. Okay. Oh, wait, I just see all the questions coming in, you guys. Hold on. Cannot evict for unpaid parking. Can this be revoked in a rent control property due to non-payment? No, you cannot evict for just garage parking or parking lot parking. So what they're saying, okay, is if you rent a parking space separate, you cannot evict for parking if they don't pay you. You can just reclaim the spot after 45 days. You can't evict, okay? So after 45 days, you just reclaim their spot. In the meantime, in 45 days, they're going to set up a barbecue and start living in that car. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Lawn. All right, let me go backwards because I see a lot of stuff that came in. I think this is in San Bernardino County. There's my Roadrunner girls. Covered by the TPA at time of lease renewal, can we ask the existing tenant to fill out an updated application and charge screening fee again? No, they're already in possession of the property. They already live there. What are you going to tell them? You no longer qualify to move out? That's not a basis for eviction. They're already in possession. Okay. Remember that. If they're already in possession, you can't really run their credit for what? They're already there. What are you going to say? You don't qualify? They're already living there. So it makes you look bad. It's unethical. So we want to make sure we're not doing that. Okay. What do you have when 100 tenants are buried up to their neck in the sand? Not enough sand? Val, you're gonna make me laugh real hard on here. Stop it. Melanie, COVID rent due for February 1st, LARSO. Our tenant has a balance of like $36,000 and we will never be able to pay up. Is the only action we can take to go to small claims and not evict correct? What would you do? He's a pain in the arse. Honestly, I'd sue him in small claims because it's unlimited. I'd get that big money judgment against him. And I'd attack that way as far as that money judgment. And then how collectible is the money? Is he on Social Security, disability, welfare, self-employed? Because those are uncollectible debts. He's a pain in the arse. Arse? My old boss used to say, why do you always say they're a pain in the horse? And I'm like, oh, is that what he thinks I'm saying? Great. Say that thing about the list. We have a bad tenant list that we share with other local private landlords. No, you don't. I don't know anything about that. And no, you don't. It's illegal. Cannot evict for unpaid parking. Yeah, we just talked about that. All right, you guys are all laughing. Okay, let's go back forward. Hang on really quick, you guys. Somebody's back at my desk to talk to me, and I don't want to be rude to you, so I'm going to put you on mute. Hang on. Minutes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Somebody asked me, in the last 5 minutes, did you just call some lady because she's screaming that you just spoke to her? I'm like, no, ask my followers. There's 16 of us in here, and we can all say that Patty's been on a Zoom call for the last 40 minutes, okay? She did not speak to me. She is crazy. All right, let's go back. Assembly Bill 537. Transparency and consumer protection in the realm of vacation rentals. So for those of you that Airbnb, listen up. Effective from July 1st of 2024, Assembly Bill 537 sets stringent guidelines for the advertising and promotion of short-term lodging, focusing on the comprehensive disclosure of mandatory fees to potential renters. So let me explain what 537 is about. You may rent an Airbnb and it's $115 a night, but then they charge you a $125 cleaning fee, and then they charge you transit occupancy tax, and then they charge you this and they charge you that. They are now requiring that you disclose all of those fees in your advertising. If you don't, you could be fined $10,000. So all those little fees that we this fee, a key fee, a this fee, a that fee, transit occupancy, it all has to be disclosed in your advertisement or you can be fined, okay? And they're just trying to make it a little more transparent. That's the reason behind it. Melanie, you want me to repeat something that's my opinion. Okay, you guys pay attention. You're right, Val, you can't have a list and it's on my blog and you can't share it with other landlords. You can have a list. You can't share it with other landlords. Okay, guys, listen up. I'm going to teach you something from deep down in Patty's arsenal, okay? If you have an applicant or a tenant, let's put this in a different perspective. If you have a tenant that is self-employed, how do you garnish their wages? I can't hear you guys because you can't. If you have somebody on welfare, Social Security, disability, how do you garnish their wages? I'm listening. I can't hear you guys because you can't. Let me know when that comes full circle, Melanie. Make sense? If I can't collect from you later, why would I want to rent to you now? Watch it, because they know we do this. Be careful you're not discriminating against source of income. Example, if I tell you I don't rent to attorneys or property managers, why don't I rent to attorneys or property managers? Because attorneys are always telling me what the rules are and I don't like it. And I don't rent to property managers because they all think they know more than I do. Their heads are this big. I'm a property manager. Yeah, I know. I'm a broker. I get it. I understand. That is discrimination against source of income. And I cannot do that. I have to treat everyone the same. But you hear me, Melanie? You cannot garnish someone's wages if they're on welfare, Social Security, or disability. You can't garnish their wages. So if they don't pay you, what is your recourse? Understand? Okay. Guess gig workers too. You know, I'll tell you something, and it's a pretty good one. I wanted to rent a property, and these two gals wanted to rent the property, and they wanted to rent it. They came in and applied, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have the greatest credit, which I was okay with. You know, things happen, life happens. They still met my criteria, okay? The criteria. They were real close though. So she tells me point blank, I'm in an all cash business, honey. You're not going to be able to verify my income, but I can pay you and I can show you my bank statements showing that I have hefty deposits every month. So I asked her, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do for a living? And she said, oh, I'm a dancer. I didn't know she meant without clothes on. Okay. Do you know that girl always paid her rent a month in advance and always had the full amount? Always told me if there was a problem. Best tenant, one of my best tenants ever. Just saying. Let me know if there was a problem, if something needed to be addressed. I addressed it. Great relationship. Okay. But sometimes people have incomes that aren't as traceable as you and me. I mean, come on. We get a paycheck. We get taxed coming in, taxed going out, taxed on what we buy, taxed on what we save, right? Some people have an all cash business. As long as they're paying income taxes on that cash business, I'm good with it. Because if they're paying taxes on what they are depositing and what they're making, then I'm okay with that because they're following the rules. Okay? Don't get so panicked when somebody says they're a dancer or something like that. Like I said, best tenant ever. All right, I'm going to get into questions now. I'm done reading the legislative updates. Be careful, you guys. We can't use a minimum FICO score for Section 8, but we can say we only do month-to-month contracts. I hope that clicked.
Patty, I have a questions.
Sure.
You know, for the Section 8 applicants, and you said, you know, our lease is going to be month to month, but that's why it won't apply for property at large, so correct?
Correct. Some municipalities, meaning some cities, require that you put your tenant in at hello on a 1-year contract. So for somewhere like Larceau, that won't work. But for somewhere like Riverside, San Bernardino, all day long.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And you know my rules about Larceau, and it's my own rule. It goes like this: when the restrictions become so restrictive that you can't function anymore, it's time to exchange it for a property somewhere else. And what I mean by that is when, let me say it this way, okay? For 30 years, Larceau has been the most restrictive in California. City of Los Angeles, LARSO, most restrictive against landlords. It's not anymore. Some of these municipalities, like the city of Inglewood, the city of Pasadena, have implemented rules that are more restrictive than LARSO. Also, just so you know, if you haven't been paying attention, LARSO spread like cancer during COVID and infected quite a few more cities within the county. And I'll give you the ones I know off the top of my head, and you'll go, what? City of Torrance, now governed by LARSO. So is Wilmington, so is San Pedro, so are most cities out in the valley. Wait, what? Yep, it's spreading like cancer. No joke. Val, you are so bad. How do you save a tenant from drowning? Take your foot off his head. Bad, that was bad. You're funny. All right, anybody have anything else they want to pick my brain about? Because I'm going to get off of here. For rental form, can we still have criminal, illegal drugs, etc.? No, you cannot run criminal background. Did you miss that part? You can run it, but you can't deny them for it. They did their crime, they did their time, and you can't hold that against them anymore. They're leveling the playing field. Remember the hat I talked about and all the names of people that wanted to live there? I think that's what they're aiming for, because some of this stuff is ridiculous. Yes, you need to change your criteria forms. What it needs to say now is you must make 3 times the amount of your portion of the rent. That way you're in compliance with Section 8. You also must say a minimum FICO score is not a requirement if you're funded by Section 8. It also must say nothing about criminal backgrounds, because we can't run them. Okay? 3 things you need to change on your criteria, and I just gave you all 3 of them, and I believe the sample on Widget's Way has been changed. I worked with my web guy on getting that changed. I will look at it when we get off of here and make sure that it's current, okay? Anybody have anything else? Otherwise, I'm gonna go. All right, you guys have a great week. If you need me, hunt me down. Please, I beg you, review the new legislation that is glooming over us currently. And make sure that you're familiar with it, because some of those things we need to change our criteria today. And don't forget, when you revise it, put a little revision date. That way, if somebody has an old one, you can show that the new one was revised as of this day. That way you don't get in trouble for anything else. So what is Patty talking about? At the bottom of your criteria sheet, there should be something that says revised and has a date. Each time you revise your criteria, you want to keep the old copy and the new copies. Just put when it was revised, okay? That'll help you tremendously. All right, everybody, have a great week. If there's, one more quick question. For a rent increase, do we need to sign it, or can it be typed with company management name, Larso? I'd sign it, yes, because you're increasing rent. I had to go through, so some of you that know me know that I have a very odd photographic memory, that I remember things like I can see the document in my head. So when you were asking me that, I was going through California Civil Procedure 1162 in my brain, trying to see if that needed to be signed. It can be signed by management, agent for the owner, or the owner directly. Yep, safe, not sorry, every time. Always want to be safe, not sorry. And don't apologize to me for asking me a question last minute. At that point, it pops into your brain, so be it. I'm familiar with that kind of stuff. All right, if you guys need anything else, hunt me down. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great week. Bye.